This is people of the state of Michigan versus Gregory Richardson, docket number 20-870FH. This is the time set for the defendant's motion to modify bond. And I'll take your appearances for the record, please. The prosecutor first.
Elizabeth Allen on behalf of the people, Your Honor.
Your Honor, Attorney Nicole Samuel on behalf of Greg Richardson. We are both appearing via Zoom today.
Yes, and Mr. Richardson is present via Zoom. And Ms. Samuel, you may go ahead with your motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our motion's pretty cut and dry. As a condition of Mr. Richardson's bond, he is supposed to be within he cannot be within 1,500 feet of Sandra Chrome. She lives across the street from my client. So since the time and date that he was arraigned on October 26th, he has not been able to live in his own residence. So he's essentially been homeless. He's been couch surfing and sleeping in his car when he can't find a friend's house to stay at. I mean, now that it's cold and it's Michigan and we're in the middle of winter, that's just not really practical for him to be sleeping in his car. On top of that, I'm not sure if this court has received the report from Denise Chillers Brown, but she's indicating that he doesn't have any problems with anger management. He doesn't really have any mental health concerns. I think that it would be reasonable for him to be able to return to his home. And he's not asking to have contact with the victim in this case whatsoever at all. He will remain far away from her. He just wants to be able to go home.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because I did see the report. I had to read it quickly because I got it minutes before I took the bench. But did you see the bond violation report?
Yes, and I would like to. I'm sorry, I would like to address that as well. I didn't know if you wanted me to go into that at this time.
I do.
Okay, yeah. So I'll proceed with that. So Mr. Richardson used to work at a private security company. It's actually his own company that he started in 2018. Because of the nature of these offenses, he can't continue in that line of work. So in order to be able to, provide for himself and his children, he started at Uber. So he's an Uber driver. The day of the incident, he was working and he had a ride that he had to pick up. What he's been doing is he's been using Google Maps, and he will see if the location is far enough away from the location he's not supposed to be in. So he went on Google Maps, typed in the address, and it said he was 1,600 feet away. So he went and did the ride. His ankle monitor, his GPS went off. So he canceled the ride and turned around. And then he self-reported the incident the next day because this happened around 9:30 at night. So while yes, this was a violation, I mean, it really was just a technical violation. He was trying his absolute hardest to comply. I mean, he relied on Google Maps, and, I guess it maybe wasn't 100% accurate with the feet. So, I mean, yes, it was a violation. He reported it and he turned around right away. So I would just say,
yeah. And even GPS is not precise down to the, exact foot, inch, whatever. Right. But then it says in the report that he said that he had been in that same area 5 other times and his tether did not go off. And he was going to give pretrial services verification of that, and they never heard back from him on it. Is that
yes
correct? So
what he had told me is, so with Uber, they log his rides, but they don't, it's a little confusing. It kind of technical. They said that they log his rides, but not if he cancels them. And then they also, it's not 100% accurate. And I also informed Mr. Richardson because he was like, he told me that he offered up that information. And I said, well, let me handle it. Let me address it because I don't want you to be violated when you didn't do anything wrong. So I that's on me. I told him just let me address it and wait for me to handle it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Allen, is there a response for the people?
Yes, Your Honor. understand the defendant's request and why he's made it, and we ultimately will leave it to the court's discretion. But on behalf of the victim, I do have to inform the court she is absolutely terrified of this defendant. I mean, the felony information lists the assault as occurring at 4038 Bridgeport, which is across the street from where she lives. And when the magistrate initially made the no contact order, it's clear they were aware of what the 1,500-foot requirement would entail and took that into account, and nothing has changed since then. So I am concerned about what measures can be put in place to keep the victim safe while the case is pending, if he's allowed to return home. And I'm also a little confused by the motion says, as it's written, says he lives at 1045 Bridgeport. And it's written that it's asking him to return home to his residence at 4035 Bridgeport. So I assume those are just mistyped addresses in their motion. But I'd like that clarified if there's a change of bond conditions, where he would be living, just because how it's written in the motion is a little confusing.
Can you clarify, Ms. Samuel?
Yes, and Mr. Richardson, correct me if I'm wrong, but your address is 1045 Bridgeport Street?
4035 Bridgeport.
Okay, thank you. That is the address he'd be returning to.
And who does he live there with, if anyone?
I believe he just lives there by himself. He does have his kids. He does have custody of his kids, so they do visit, I believe, on weekends and Wednesdays.
Yes.
So really what you're asking me is not only could he live at his house, but then we'd have to remove tether as well, because there's no point in having it if he's living in the exclusion zone.
Right. Yeah, I guess by default, that would be, you could still have a GPS tether on him.
Yeah, without the exclusion zone.
Right. Which he's happy to keep on him.
Okay. This is a difficult situation because I don't wish to make Mr. Richardson homeless. But as has been explained, the alleged victim is terrified, and no contact and not be within an exclusion zone is a very common and workable way to give alleged victims that peace of mind. But I feel like he can't be kept out of his own home. So we'll keep him on tether. We'll do away with the exclusion zone. Tether, all the other tether conditions will continue to apply. And I don't know what exactly those are, because that's usually between pretrial services and the accused, and I'm not in it. But if there's any tether restrictions on where and when he can go, those would continue to apply, but no exclusion zone, because like I said, he'd be in the exclusion zone 100% of the time that he's home. And Mr. Richardson, I'm going to have to put some trust in you and what you say, that you have no desire to violate the no contact. So, no contact is we're no longer working off an exclusion zone, but by no contact with her, obviously, if she's outside, you can't appear in her presence. So if she's outside, don't go outside. Don't step foot onto her property. I'm sure that goes without saying. Don't make any contact with her. I don't want to, if I hear any report that you've made some intentional contact with her, then it's going to be considered a bond violation. Can you abide by that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is there anything else that I've not thought of, Ms. Allen, that the people would like in the bond?
Not that I can think of, Judge. I was thinking the same thing about what else we could add, but I don't think there's anything else. Thank you.
Okay, then the bond modification is granted under those terms. And if there's nothing else, I think usually my office does an order that modifies the bond. We do that pretty quickly, so you should be seeing that.
Great. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Go home tonight. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. And you're all set then.
Thank you.
Thank you.